Hey, fancy listeners. Francesca Hampton here, and I am honored that you took time to tune in once again. And I'm committed to sharing content that will make you glad you did. So, welcome to the Fancy Thoughts Podcast, a weekly podcast designed to give you perspective, insight, and encouragement to release the greatness inside of you. I want you to live fancy life, where you are fostering achievement, never compromising you, because someone is waiting for you. Before we get into this week's Fancy Thoughts, let's remind ourselves what we talked about last week. Last week, we discussed that humility and greatness go hand in hand. They don't have to be contrary to each other, and in fact, they shouldn't be. We talked about as we walk in our greatness, as we walk in doing the things that we do well, as we walk in being the best that we can be, we simply need to continue to be humble. And humility simply means that we as persons are not better than anyone else, even though we may do something better than someone else. We are equal as persons. No one person is greater than another. And so as we operate in humility, we simply remember we are not better and we are not less than anyone else. Now let's get into this week's Fancy Thoughts. Similar to last week's format, I really want to focus in on one particular topic. This week's topic is about restoration and recovery. As we talk about releasing greatness, being the best that we can be, allowing our solution to come out, we have to recognize that on the road to doing so, there will be failures, there will be disappointments, there will be things that just do not go the way that we expected or desired for them to. And in order to continue to walk in greatness, walk in the fullness of what we have been called to do, destined for, designed for, and are passionate about, we have to be able to recognize those areas of failure or disappointment. We have to be able to recover from that. And we have to be willing to allow the process of restoration to happen. Restoration and recovery go hand in hand in order to release greatness. Now, when we look at the definition of both of these words, they actually include each other. What do I mean? If you look at the definition for recovery in Collins Dictionary, it says restoration to a former or better condition. Restoration or return to any former or better state of condition. So we see that recovery requires or includes restoration. But I really want to kind of look at this definition for just a moment. The first one being, again, restoration to a former or better condition. However, I actually like the second definition even better. And again, it starts with restoration, but it says restoration or return to any former and better state or condition. The idea of recovery and restoration is that we are better, is that we take the things that we did well in the previous state and we become better. Even if you were great before a fall, before a disappointment, before a failure, you want to take the good things of that former state and be better. How does this apply in a normal situation? I can speak from my own life of a significant time or event in my life that changed, I believe, the trajectory of my future. I was married. I had a lovely marriage, wonderful man, and had all the things that I thought were going to be the best for my future. I had my dream wedding. I had a man that understood me, that I could talk to better than I had with anyone else before. I had experienced things that I thought were only possible in books or dreams or from other people. It wasn't perfect. Trust me, we had our issues, our ups and our downs, but we were building something that we both knew was going to help us to accomplish what God had called us to be, as well as the things that we had truly desired from a partner. But yet, within a very short period of time, my husband passed away. And as a person who got married later in my years, got married at 40, or almost 40, it was unthinkable, unexpected, unfair to have been given this opportunity and this great, I can't even think of the right words, to have been given this great experience and then for it to be ripped away. And that's exactly what it felt like. It was ripped away from my life. Everything that I thought was going to be a certain way after that day, that after May 18th, 2018, was now different. Now I had an opportunity after this, to decide what my future was going to look like, to allow God to heal my heart and show me that there was still something there for me, something, my life still meant something. I had to go through a recovery process. One of the other definitions of recovery is the regaining of something lost. What was lost was the vision for my future. What was lost was the vision for my family. It was lost. And so I had to allow God to show me that there was something more for the rest of my life. And so here I sit now, almost 3 years after his passing, and I can tell you that I have been through a recovery process that led to restoration. So let's talk about what restoration means. Restoration is a putting or bringing back into a formal, normal, or unimpaired state or condition. And I think this is so powerful. Because when you're being restored, or when you go through the process of restoration, again, it's bringing some of the things of the former, some of the things that would be considered normal, but it's bringing you to an unimpaired state or condition. It means the ability to move forward not as though that situation never happened, but as though that situation no longer impacts your ability to move forward into your future. As a person who's experienced the grieving process, many times it's been said, you have to learn how to just move on. No one can move on from a tragedy like a death of a spouse or a child, or a parent, or any person. You don't just move on as though it didn't happen. What you do is you learn to move forward. You learn how to put back or bring back your state, or be put into an unimpaired state or condition, meaning that it will no longer hinder your ability to walk into your future. And maybe you have experienced a similar disappointment, tragedy, or failure. Maybe you had a business that you were starting and it didn't go well. You had to close down the business or had to completely change the projection of what you were going to offer or how you were going to offer it. Perhaps you had a marriage that didn't work and it ended in divorce. And maybe at one time you experienced feelings of failure or simply feelings of disappointment and discouragement. Maybe you started to work on something, a product or a book or any type of initiative, and it just did not go the way that you expected it. Maybe you expected to be done sooner than you actually were able to finish it. Maybe you started it out, but it didn't sell the way you thought that it would. Whatever it may be. And if you have never been in this type of tragedy or this type of disappointment, my dear friend, it is coming, because no success is without failure. No success is without disappointment. No success is without things going different than the way you planned them. Why? Because no matter how great you plan, you are not the ultimate decider of fate. You have no control over anyone else. If you put out a product, if you put out a book, if you put out or start a business, you cannot make anyone buy it. You cannot make anyone purchase it. You cannot make anyone read it. You cannot make anyone do anything. And so we have to acknowledge and accept our limitation. What you are in control of is you. And so therefore, when you experience a failure, a disappointment, a tragedy, even a detour in your plan, you have to allow yourself to accept that failure, that disappointment, that discouragement, that detour. You have to accept it, not wallow in it, not have a pity party about it, but you have to accept it. Because in order to recover and to be restored, you have to recognize that there was an area, a time period, or a moment in your progression, in your process, in your plan, in your business, in your life that did not go well. And then you have to choose to recover from it. No person who has ever been through a tragedy was able to overcome it without making a choice. It is a decision. It is a choice to be better, to move forward, to recover, and to be restored. In order for us to release greatness, we have to first accept that something has happened. For me, I had to accept that the marriage that I dreamed of and thought that I had changed. Doesn't mean that I won't get married again. Doesn't mean that I won't still have the dreams and the visions that I had for my marriage and for my future. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have it. So again, it's not removing the success that you had before. It's not forgetting it. It's not moving on from it. It's accepting the good and recognizing the bad or the areas of improvement from that former state and taking that into an unimpaired state or condition for your future. Choosing to not allow that tragedy, that disappointment, that detour to negatively impact your ability to be great. Let me say that again. It means to not allow that situation, that failure, that disappointment, that detour to impact your ability to move forward into being great. The only person that can make that determination is you. You are the one who can make the choice to move forward. And you have to allow God to help you. There is no way I would be where I am today without God. No way. There were moments where I didn't want to get up. There were moments when I didn't want to do anything. There were moments when I wanted to sit in a corner and simply cry. There were moments when I wanted to die. But God. I am grateful that God met me where I was, and He sent the right people into my path to not allow me to stay where I was, but not push me any faster than my recovery process could handle. And that is so important. As you go through your recovery process and your restoration process, it is imperative that you have the right people in your network. You have to have people that can understand you and are empathetic to your journey. And it's important that it's not just sympathy, but it's empathy, because sympathy can sometimes get stuck with you, sympathizing with your discouragement, sympathizing with your failure, right? Sympathy has to be matched with empathy. Empathy is my understanding of where you are and my desire to help you to move forward into where you want to be. It means I'm willing to cry with you. I'm willing to be upset with you. I'm willing to feel with you. And I am willing to help push and challenge you to be restored. Push and challenge you to recover at your pace. So important, at your pace. And I wasn't planning on going in this direction, but I feel that it's important that for those who are helping or supporting others who have been through any type of moment, any type of failure, tragedy, or discouragement, however big or however small, be mindful that it's their journey, not yours. Even as a person who's been through a death, I can't pretend that my journey is the same as another person who's been through the passing of a loved one. They are not the same. Whether it's a spouse, a parent, a child, an uncle, a brother, it doesn't matter who the person is. Every person's journey is different because every person is different. Every person processes things different. So although I want to take my experiences and share them with the other person in an effort to say I understand, I have to refrain from doing so, because although I may get a glimpse of what they're going through, my journey is different from theirs. And I cannot put my journey on them as though they should progress through their journey like I did. So if you are a person that is supporting someone else, please be mindful that your journeys may be different. Your journeys are different, and you want to make sure that your support is at their level and at their pace so that you can help them to move forward. So again, back to if you're the person or when you're that person that needs to go through recovery and restoration, remember to accept that something has happened and then make the choice to recover and allow the restoration process bringing back the things from the former state that were good and the things that you learned that needed to be improved and bring them into an unimpaired state of moving forward. I want to leave you with these two scriptures. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 10 says, "And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you." As I mentioned, you cannot do this in your own strength. You cannot do this through willpower. You cannot do this just simply because you put your mind to it. You have to have a help that's greater than you. And as a believer, that help is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And he will help you. The scripture is his promise to do so. And I want to leave you with one more. Joel 2:25. It says, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter." And that's just the beginning of that verse. But it's saying there are times when things are taken away from you. When you think of a locust comes in to just eat the crops, right? Everything that you've grown, everything that you've planted just becomes devoured by this thing, this insect that comes to destroy what you have put together, or what you have sown, what you have grown. And sometimes in our own lives, we experience times where things come in and it seems they come to just destroy everything that we've put in effort to create, everything that we've put in effort to grow and improve. And it comes in, and whether it be, a person or a situation, they just come in and just begin to knock it down and seemingly just destroy it. But God has said, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." That time frame of that destroying, that time frame of that destruction, God can restore that. He won't necessarily restore exactly what you sowed, right? When something is gone, it's gone. But what he will do is he will redeem the time. So where you're moving forward and rebuilding what took you 5 years, 2 years to do the first time, God will help you to do in 1 year or in a shorter period of time. He will redeem that time and restore to you those years. And because God is faithful and God is mighty, it will be better than what you had before. And you will be able to move forward in an unimpaired state or condition. So my friends, release greatness. Everything is not always going to be hunky-dory, roses and peaches, unicorns and lollipops. Sometimes we're going to go through things. But you being great requires you to recognize it, accept that it happened, and then make the choice to recover and be restored. Thank you for joining us for the Fancy Thoughts podcast. I'm Francesca Hampton, and I look forward to you tuning in again next week. And remember, you are well able, fully capable, and properly equipped to accomplish everything you were created for. So go and make this week a great one.